The huge metal doors slid open with a soft hiss. Diane Miller stepped into the grand chamber of the Galactic Conclave for the first time. The room was massive, with high ceilings that seemed to reach toward the stars themselves. Representatives from over 200 alien species sat in curved rows that stretched upward like a giant bowl. Lights of many colors shone down from above, each adjusted to the comfort needs of different species. Diane straightened her simple blue uniform and walked forward with calm, measured steps. She could feel hundreds of alien eyes watching her. Some had multiple eyes. Some had no eyes at all but sensed her in other ways. To them, she was Earth's voice, the ambassador of a planet that had only joined the galactic community 3 years ago. Representative Miller of Earth approaching, announced a computerized voice in the common galactic language. Whispers spread through the chamber. Diane heard snippets of conversation from aliens with less subtle communication methods. Another soft skin from the garden world. No claws, no armor. How did they even survive to develop space travel? I heard they need to sleep for a third of each day cycle. Inefficient design. Diane smiled politely. Let them think what they wanted. Humans had learned it was often useful to be underestimated. She reached the central speaking platform and placed her hand on the identity scanner. The platform rose smoothly, lifting her to address the assembly. Honored representatives of the conclave, Diane began, her voice clear and strong. Earth thanks you for this opportunity to address shared concerns. We may be newcomers to your community, but we bring a deep commitment to peaceful cooperation. From her elevated position, Diane could see the Dravaki delegation clearly. 7 feet tall with scaled skin that glinted like metal under the lights, they looked both regal and dangerous. Their leader, Commander Vorth, fixed his yellow eyes on her with open distrust. The Dravaki Imperium had been expanding aggressively toward Earth's sector for months. As Diane spoke about trade agreements and cultural exchange programs, her mind cataloged details about each species in the room. The Mirith needed high humidity and would be uncomfortable in the dry central sections. The Talari delegates sat far from the Ventari due to sensory conflicts that gave them headaches. The Dravaki always positioned themselves with clear paths to exits. Knowledge was power, and humans collected it instinctively. Earth seeks only peaceful relations with all sentient life, Diane concluded. We have much to learn from your ancient civilizations. After her speech, Diane stepped down from the platform. A small group waited for her at the edge of the chamber. Jack Warren, her military advisor, stood with his hands clasped behind his back. With his gray hair and gentle smile, most aliens assumed he was some kind of elder wisdom figure. None guessed he had once commanded Earth's most elite special forces unit. Beside him was Dr. Susan Phillips, xenobiologist and the team's expert on alien physiology. Her round glasses and constant note-taking reinforced the image of a harmless academic. Well done, Ambassador, said Susan quietly. The Zentari representative was blinking rapidly during your trade proposal. For their species, that's a sign of strong interest. Jack nodded slightly. The Dravaki weren't impressed. They've moved their battle cruiser closer to Outpost 7 near the neutral zone. Diane kept her diplomatic smile in place as they walked through the crowded reception area. Did our sensors get a better read on their ship designs? Complete scans, Jack confirmed. Their hull has the same weakness at the junction points we suspected. Their visual range doesn't extend to the upper spectrum, which explains the lack of sensors in that band. A tall mantis-like alien stepped into their path. Counselor Zrix of the Felins had 6 limbs and compound eyes that reflected the light in rainbow patterns. Ambassador Miller. Zrix clicked in accented common language. Your speech was most idealistic, but I fear you do not understand the realities of the conclave. The Dravaki will not be swayed by offers of cultural exchange. They respect only strength which, forgive my directness, your species does not appear to possess in abundance. Diane smiled warmly. Physical strength takes many forms, Counselor. Humans believe in finding common ground first. It served us well. A luxury of evolved species, Zrix replied. The Dravaki evolved as apex predators. They understand only domination or submission. How interesting, Diane said. On Earth we have a saying, judge not by appearances alone. Our history has taught us much about predators and prey. As they moved away, Susan whispered, he's not entirely wrong about the Dravaki. Their territorial displays at the last meeting were concerning, which is why we're prepared, Diane answered quietly. Has the Nightshade arrived in the sector yet? Jack's expression didn't change. Captain Russell reported they're in position, running silent. The Dravaki have no idea they're being watched. They reach the human delegation's quarters, a modest suite compared to the elaborate chambers of older conclave members. Once inside with the door sealed, Diane's posture changed subtly. The diplomatic softness in her eyes hardened into focus. Status. Report, she said, her voice now crisp and commanding. Lisa Chen, their communications specialist, looked up from her workstation. We've intercepted Dravaki communications. They're planning something big. Their words translate roughly to elimination of obstacles before their expansion push. Diane nodded. And the security on our quarters? Daniel Hayes, chief of security, ran a final scan before answering. They've been probing our systems, trying to be subtle about it. I've left enough holes to make them think we're as soft as they believe, but core systems are triple protected. Good, Diane said. Tonight's reception will be our best chance to access their diplomatic codes. Susan, you'll distract the Dravaki cultural attaché. Jack, be ready to move if things go sideways. She walked to the window that looked out at the vast space station that housed the conclave. Thousands of ships from hundreds of worlds docked, in perfect formation. Peace through negotiation was always the goal, but 5,000 years of human history had taught her species to be ready when words failed. Diane pressed her hand against the secure communication panel. Send encoded message to Earth Alliance Command. Message begins. Dravaki aggression confirmed. Diplomatic channels still priority, but recommend activation of contingency theta. Send the wolves, but keep them leashed until my signal. Message ends. She turned back to her team. We're diplomats first. That's not a lie or a disguise. It's our primary purpose here. But if the Dravaki want to learn what humans are capable of when threatened, we'll be ready to teach them. The team nodded in silent understanding. Outside in the conclave, they were seen as curious, soft creatures from a garden world who had somehow stumbled into space. Only time would tell when the galaxy would discover what really lurked behind their diplomatic smiles. The hunt had begun, though no one else knew it yet. Ambassador Diane Miller smiled and raised her glass at the conclave reception. The room glittered with strange lights and even stranger beings. Around her, alien diplomats chatted in dozens of languages while service robots floated with trays of food and drink suitable for various species. The Dravaki delegation is watching you, Jack Warren said quietly as he passed by her. His gray hair and kind face made him look like a gentle advisor, not the deadly soldier he had once been. Diane nodded slightly. She had felt their yellow eyes following her all evening. Any updates from the Nightshade? Captain Russell reports their ship is in position. The Dravaki don't know they're there, Jack replied before moving away to speak with a tall blue alien. Susan, Phillips approached next, her datapad clutched to her chest. Ambassador, I've completed the analysis of the Dravaki biological samples we got from their food waste. Their heat sensing is even better than we thought, but they have almost no ability to see in low-light conditions. Good work, Diane said. Make sure Daniel has that information. The reception continued for 2 more hours. Diane spoke with representatives from 17 different species about trade deals, cultural exchanges, and border agreements. All the while, her team worked the room, Lisa gathering communications data, Susan studying biology, Jack assessing military capabilities, and Daniel mapping the station's security. No one saw them as a coordinated unit. No one realized they were hunting. At midnight station time, Diane returned to the human quarters. Her feet hurt from standing so long, but she pushed the discomfort aside. There was work to do. Status report, she said once the doors were sealed. Daniel Hayes looked up from his security screens. The Dravaki have placed guards at all major junctions near our section. Not normal procedure. They've also doubled communications in the last hour, Lisa added. Coded, but the pattern suggests countdown. Diane frowned. They're making their move tonight. Jack nodded grimly. They want to eliminate us before we can call for help. Standard Dravaki tactics from their last 3 conquests. But why now, Susan asked. The Conclave hasn't even voted on the neutral systems issue yet. Because they know Earth will vote against them, Diane said. And unlike the other small powers, we might actually do something about it. She walked to the window and looked out at the vast starfield. How long do we have? Based on their patrol patterns, Daniel said, checking his screen. I'd say less than 2 hours. Diane turned to her team. Let's not be here when they arrive. Lisa, can you loop the life signs monitors to make it look like we're sleeping? Already. Done, Lisa said with a small smile. Susan, what about the environmental controls? The xenobiologist adjusted her glasses. I can trigger a small malfunction that will mask our heat signatures as we move. Good, Diane said. Daniel, best escape route. Daniel pulled up a station map. Maintenance Tunnel 14C. It's rarely used and connects to the diplomatic shuttle bay through the service corridors. Perfect, Diane nodded. Jack, alert the Nightshade. Tell them to prepare for guests but maintain stealth protocols. The team packed quickly. They took only what they could carry in small bags. Each person had a diplomatic emergency kit which contained more than just the medical supplies and communications gear that other species assumed. Just as they finished, the lights in their quarters flickered. They're accessing the power grid, Daniel said, checking his portable scanner. Earlier than expected. Move now, Diane ordered. They slipped out through a service door in the bathroom. Lisa sealed it behind them, leaving no trace of their exit. The maintenance tunnel was narrow and dark, lit only by small emergency lights along the floor. Masks, Jack whispered, passing out thin black breathing filters. They'll use sleep gas first. They had barely put on the masks when alarms began to sound throughout the station. The attack had begun. The human team moved quickly through the dark tunnels. Daniel led the way, his memory of the station maps flawless. Behind them, they heard the crash of doors being forced open. Dravaki strike team, Jack whispered. At least 6, maybe 8. They reached a junction where 3 tunnels met. Ahead lay the path to the shuttle bay. To the right was a storage area. To the left, the station's environmental control center. Diane made a quick decision. Lisa, Susan, continue to the shuttle. Daniel, go with them. She pointed to Jack. We're taking a detour. Ambassador, protocol says. Daniel began. New protocol. Diane cut him off. Jack and I need to check something. We'll be right behind you. The team split up. Diane and Jack moved silently toward the environmental control center. Behind them, the sounds of the Dravaki search grew louder. They'll expect us to run, Diane said as they reached the control room door. Let's show them humans don't always do the expected. Jack nodded and pulled a small device from his bag. He placed it on the door lock, and it quickly bypassed the security system. The door slid open. Inside, the environmental control center was empty. The station staff had evacuated when the alarm sounded. Rows of monitors showed conditions throughout the conclave complex. There. Jack pointed to a screen showing their quarters. 6 large Dravaki warriors in combat armor were tearing the rooms apart, clearly frustrated at finding them empty. Commander Vorth, Diane said, recognizing the leader. He's angry. Jack moved to the control panel. What's the plan, Ambassador? We need evidence of their attack for the conclave, Diane said. And we need to slow them down. She went to the main environmental console. How cold can we make Section 14? Jack raised an eyebrow but checked the systems. -20 degrees. But that would affect the whole diplomatic wing. Other species have environmental suits, Diane said. And the Dravaki are cold-blooded, Jack finished. They'll be sluggish, disoriented. Exactly. Diane's fingers moved across the controls. Start recording all security feeds to your secure drive. Then meet me at Junction 22. As Jack worked, Diane accessed the station-wide communication system. She needed to warn innocent bystanders while not alerting the Dravaki to their plans. "Attention, all diplomatic personnel," she said in a calm voice. "This is Ambassador Miller of Earth. There is an environmental malfunction in Section 14. Please proceed to emergency shelters or don personal environmental protection. Repeat, this is not a drill." She ended the message and looked at Jack. "Let's go." They slipped out of the control room just as the temperature began to drop. Their conclave uniforms contained thermal regulation systems, standard for humans who had evolved to survive in a wide range of temperatures. They made their way through the increasingly cold corridors. Frost began to form on the walls. Their breath became visible in the air. Behind them, they heard the confused shouts of the Dravaki warriors as their bodies began to slow in the cold. "Ambassador." Jack's communication device buzzed with Lisa's. "I assume we've reached the shuttle. Where are you?" "On our way," Diane replied. "We've bought some time." As they turned the final corner toward the shuttle bay, 3 Dravaki warriors appeared in front of them. Unlike their companions, these were wearing full environmental suits. "The human diplomats," the leader hissed through his helmet. "You will come with us now." Jack stepped forward, positioning himself between Diane and the aliens. "We are protected by conclave law. Stand aside." The Dravaki drew their weapons, long, curved blades designed to slice through armor. "Your conclave cannot help you now," the leader said. Jack looked at the warriors, then at the narrow corridor, then at the ceiling pipes above them. He made a quick calculation and looked back at Diane. She nodded slightly. She knew what he was thinking. Jack smiled at the aliens. "You know, for apex predators, you Dravaki make a common mistake." "What mistake, human?" the leader snarled. "You think being the strongest means you always win," Jack said. Then he jumped up and grabbed the overhead pipe, using his weight to tear it free. Steam burst forth, filling the corridor with blinding, hot mist. The Dravaki screamed in confusion as their heat sensors were overwhelmed. In the chaos, Jack moved with practiced precision. He disarmed the first warrior with a twist of the alien's wrist, then used the creature's own momentum to throw it into its companions. Diane slipped past the confused aliens, pulling a small device from her pocket. She pressed it against the nearest warrior's environmental suit where it attached and began blinking. "Evidence secured," she said to Jack. "Let's go." Together they ran the final distance to the shuttle bay, where the rest of their team waited. The small diplomatic shuttle, marked with Earth's insignia, was ready for launch. As they lifted off from the station, Diane looked back at the conclave. The first shot had been fired in a war no one had declared. The Dravaki had revealed themselves as aggressors. Now it was humanity's turn to reveal what they truly were. "Set course for the Nightshade," she told Lisa, "and send a message to Earth. Command, diplomatic options exhausted. Request full authorization for Operation Watchdog." The shuttle disappeared into the darkness of space, heading toward a ship the Dravaki never knew was there. The ESS Nightshade drifted in the shadow of a large asteroid, its black hull absorbing rather than reflecting light. It was a small ship compared to the massive Dravaki battlecruisers, but it hadn't been built to impress. It had been built to hunt. Diane Miller stood on the bridge, watching the main screen as their shuttle approached. The Nightshade was officially listed as a diplomatic support vessel in Earth's registry. The other species of the Conclave didn't need to know about its stealth systems, advanced weapons, or the highly trained crew who operated them. "Ambassador on deck," called Captain Eric Russell as Diane and her team entered the bridge. The crew stood at attention briefly before returning to their stations. "Status report, Captain," Diane said. "The Dravaki have launched 3 ships from the Conclave station," Russell replied. "They're conducting a search pattern but haven't detected us. Their main battlecruiser, the Fist of Vorth, is moving toward the neutral systems." Jack Warren joined them at the tactical display. "They think they've scared us off. Standard Dravaki. Intimidation tactics." "They're about to learn that humans don't scare easily," Diane said. "Open a secure channel to Earth Command." The main screen switched to show Admiral Greg Morgan, his weathered face serious beneath close-cropped white hair. "Ambassador Miller," he greeted her. "We received your code. The Security Council has approved Operation Watchdog with full authority granted to you in the field." "Thank you, Admiral," Diane nodded. "The Dravaki have shown their hand earlier than expected. We need to respond quickly but carefully." "Agreed. What's your assessment?" Diane looked at her team before answering. "The Dravaki attacked us directly and are moving to seize the neutral systems. If they succeed, they'll control key jump points that lead straight to Earth space. We need to stop them, but in a way that maintains our position in the conclave. You have my authority to do what's necessary," the Admiral said. "But remember, we're still establishing our place in the galactic community. Many species are watching how we handle this." "Understood. We'll be surgical," Diane assured him. Miller out. The screen returned to showing the starfield and the distant shapes of Dravaki ships. Captain Russell turned to her. "Orders, Ambassador?" "We're going to teach the Dravaki a lesson about humans," Diane said. "But first we need to warn the neutral systems. Lisa, can you get me a channel to Outpost 7? Lisa Chen moved to the communication station. "Channel open." "Outpost 7, this is Ambassador Miller of Earth. The Dravaki battlecruiser moving toward your position has hostile intent. Evacuate all non-essential personnel immediately." A nervous voice replied. "Ambassador, we have 300 civilians here, mostly scientists and their families. Our evacuation ships can only take half that number." "Help is coming," Diane promised. "Hold your position and prepare your defenses," she turned to Captain Russell. "Set course for Outpost 7, maximum stealth. Jack, prepare a boarding team. Susan, I need everything you have on Dravaki ship layouts." The Nightshade moved silently through space using the asteroid belt for cover. On the tactical display, they watched the massive Dravaki battlecruiser approach the small outpost. "There, hailing the outpost," Lisa reported, demanding surrender. "How long until we're in position?" Diane asked. 20 minutes, Russell answered. "Too long," Diane frowned. "The outpost's defenses won't hold 5 minutes against that battlecruiser." Jack studied the tactical display. "We need a distraction." Susan Phillips had been quiet studying her datapad. Now she looked up. "I have an idea. The Dravaki rely heavily on heat signatures for targeting. What if we created a false signal?" "How?" Russell asked. "The mining drones," Susan pointed to, small dots on the display. "Outpost 7 uses them for asteroid mining. If we reprogram them to generate heat patterns similar to ships, the Dravaki might split their forces." "Lisa, contact the outpost," Diane ordered. "Tell them to launch all mining drones toward these coordinates." She marked several spots on the display. While Lisa relayed the instructions, Jack prepared his team. 6 men and women in light combat, gear gathered in the briefing room. They carried minimal equipment, no heavy weapons or powered armor that other species might expect. "Remember, we're not trying to destroy the Dravaki ship," Jack told them. "Our mission is to disable it enough for the outpost to evacuate, and to gather intelligence on their systems." In the launch bay, Daniel Hayes checked his gear one last time. As chief of security, he would lead the second team. "Standard hunt pattern," he told his people. "Move fast, stay quiet, hit the target Susan identified. The Dravaki have never faced human tactics before. Let's show them what they're missing." On the bridge, they watched as dozens of small mining drones launched from the outpost, scattering in different directions. "It's working," Lisa reported. "The Dravaki are diverting ships to investigate the heat signatures. Now," Diane said quietly. Captain Russell nodded to his pilot. "Take us in." The Nightshade accelerated smoothly, still running without lights or active signals. It approached the Dravaki battlecruiser from below, in the blind spot Susan had identified, in their sensor array. "Launch teams," Russell ordered. 2 small craft detached from the Nightshade, each carrying a team of humans. They moved swiftly toward the battlecruiser, attaching themselves to its hull at specific points Susan had marked as access hatches. Jack's voice came over the comm. "Team 1 in position." "Team 2 ready," Daniel reported. "Execute," Diane said. On the screen, they watched as both teams cut through the outer hull of the Dravaki ship and slipped inside. For the next 10 minutes, there was silence. Then the Dravaki battlecruiser suddenly went dark. Its engines shut down. Its weapons systems powered off. Emergency lights flickered across its hull. Teams reporting success, Lisa announced. All primary systems disabled. Dravaki crew contained in the mess hall and barracks sections. Casualties? Diane asked. None on our side. 3 Dravaki injured, none seriously. Diane nodded with satisfaction. Tell the outpost to begin evacuation immediately. We'll hold the Dravaki here. On the main view screen they watched as ships began to launch from Outpost 7, carrying civilians to safety. The other Dravaki ships have noticed, Russell warned. They're changing course, returning to assist their flagship. How long for complete evacuation? Diane asked. 30 minutes minimum, Lisa replied. Our teams need to hold that ship for 30 minutes against possible reinforcements, Diane said thoughtfully. Lisa, patch me through to Jack. Channel open. Jack, situation has changed. Dravaki reinforcements incoming, can you hold? Jack's voice came back calm and steady. We've barricaded the main control room. Susan's data on their ship layout was perfect. They'll have to come through narrow corridors to reach us. In tight spaces like this, their size works against them. Understood. Hold as long as you can. What happened next would later be described in detail to the Conclave Security Council. The 2 human teams, outnumbered 10-1, held the Dravaki battlecruiser for 45 minutes. They used the ship's own design against the larger aliens, forcing them to move through tight maintenance corridors where their superior strength gave them no advantage. Diane watched the feed from their helmet. Cameras. Jack's team moved with perfect coordination, never staying in one place long enough to be cornered. Daniel's people set traps using the ship's own systems, sealing doors and rerouting power to create barriers. It wasn't a battle. It was a hunt. When the last evacuation ship cleared the outpost, Diane gave the order. All teams returned to extraction points. Both teams disengaged smoothly, falling back to their entry points. The Dravaki, frustrated and confused by the humans' tactics, pressed forward too eagerly. They triggered the final traps Jack had set, which locked down entire sections of their own ship. The human teams returned to the Nightshade without a single casualty. As they pulled away, the Dravaki battlecruiser floated powerless, its system slowly coming back online. Send a message to the Conclave, Diane told Lisa. Inform them that Earth has evidence of unprovoked Dravaki aggression against both diplomatic personnel and a civilian outpost. Request an emergency security council meeting. She looked at the tactical display showing the disabled Dravaki ship and the safely evacuated outpost. And add a personal note to Commander Vorth, she added with a small smile. Tell him humans look forward to continued cultural exchange. The emergency meeting of the Galactic Conclave Security Council began with tension filling the air. Diane Miller sat calmly at the Earth delegation's table, flanked by Jack Warren and Susan Phillips. Across the chamber, Commander Vorth of the Dravaki glared at them with barely contained rage. The council head, a tall Zentari with silver skin, called the session to order. We are here to address the incident between Earth and the Dravaki Imperium. Ambassador Miller has presented evidence of an unprovoked attack on her diplomatic team and a civilian outpost. Vorth slammed his scaled fist on the table. This is a lie. The humans attacked our ships without warning. They disabled our battlecruiser through treachery. I have submitted all relevant data, Diane said calmly. Security footage from the Conclave station shows Dravaki warriors breaking into our quarters. We have recordings of your battlecruiser threatening Outpost 7 and demanding surrender. The council head nodded. We have reviewed the evidence. It appears the Dravaki did indeed initiate hostilities. Whispers spread through the chamber. Many species had assumed the soft-looking humans would quickly fall to Dravaki aggression. Instead, they had not only survived, but had effectively countered the attack. How exactly did your small ship disable a Dravaki battlecruiser? Asked the Mirith representative, her fur rippling with curiosity. Before Diane could answer, alarms blared throughout the station. The main view screen activated, showing a massive ship dropping out of hyperspace directly above the Conclave station. Zulathi hive ship detected, announced the station's automated system. Fear rippled through the chamber. The Zulathi were a nightmare that haunted the dreams of the galaxy. A hive mind species that viewed all other sentient life as either food or hosts for their young. "This is impossible," the council head said, voice shaking. "The Zulathi haven't breached the containment zone in 300 years. Jack leaned close to Diane. "The Dravaki conflict must have drawn their attention. They always target areas with destabilized defenses." The view screen showed smaller Zulathi ships launching from the hive ship. They headed straight for the station. "Activate station defenses," ordered the council head. "Defenses not responding," replied a station officer. "Systems are being jammed." Commander Vorth stood. "The Dravaki will retreat to our ship. We suggest all species do the same." Without another word, he and his delegation left the chamber. Panic spread through the room as other representatives rushed to contact their ships. The council head tried to maintain order, but fear had taken hold. Diane's communication device chimed. She answered to find Captain Russell on the screen. "Ambassador, the Nightshade has detected the Zulathi ships. We're moving to intercept, but there are too many. They'll breach the station before we can stop them all." "Understood, Captain. Prepare to receive evacuees. We'll help coordinate from here." Diane turned to the council head. "Earth offers assistance. With evacuation and defense." The Zentari looked surprised. "Your small ship cannot stand against the Zulathi." "Let us worry about that," Diane said. She turned to her team. "Lisa, access the station communication systems. We need to coordinate evacuation. Susan, you and I will work with station security to establish safe zones. Jack, Daniel, you know what to do." As the conclave representatives scrambled to escape, the human delegation moved with practiced precision. Lisa took over the main communication console, establishing clear evacuation routes. Susan worked with station medical teams to prepare for casualties. Jack and Daniel gathered their teams near the station's main security hub. Each person carried a small pack of equipment that no one had previously paid attention to. Standard items that all diplomatic security teams carried. "The Zulathi will target the central hub first," Jack told his people. "They'll want to control life support and communications. We need to secure that area and give the others time to evacuate." Daniel nodded. "Standard containment protocol. Team 1 takes upper levels, Team 2 takes lower. We hold as long as needed." The first impacts rocked the station as Zulathi boarding pods attached themselves to the outer hull. Emergency bulkheads began closing, but some failed as the station's systems malfunctioned under the attack. In the main security hub, Diane addressed the remaining council members. "We need to move all non-combatants to the shuttle bays immediately." "Half our systems are down," the Mirrorith representative said. "The guidance lights aren't working, and main power is failing in sections 12 through 17. We'll manage without them," Diane replied. She turned to Susan. "Dr. Phillips, what do we know about Zulathi biology?" Susan pulled up data on her pad. "They hate cold and bright light. Their exoskeletons are tough but brittle at the joints. Most importantly, they rely on pheromone trails to coordinate. Disrupt those and they lose cohesion." "Lisa, do we still have environmental control?" Lisa nodded from the communication station. "Partial control. Some systems responding. Lower temperature in all breach zones and increase light intensity to maximum," Diane ordered. "Jack, do your teams have the special packages?" "Always," Jack replied over the comm. On the security feeds, they watched as the first Zulathi broke through into the station. They were nightmare creatures, 8 limbs, chitinous black exoskeletons, and multiple eyes that glowed yellow in the darkness. They moved with terrifying speed along walls and ceilings. Then Jack's team went into action. Unlike the other species who had retreated or frozen in fear, the humans moved toward the danger. They worked in pairs, communicating with hand signals, and moving with quick, precise motions. The conclave representatives watched in stunned silence as the security feeds showed the human teams deploying strange devices at key junctions. When the first wave of Zulathi reached those points, the devices activated, releasing a thick, sticky foam that hardened instantly. Chemical barriers, Susan explained to the watching aliens. Designed to block their pheromone trails and slow their advance. More Zulathi poured in through new breaches. The station shuddered as systems failed. Emergency lighting switched on, bathing everything in red glow. Then the artificial gravity failed. For most species, this would have been disastrous. The Zentari, with their heavy metallic bodies, could barely move in zero gravity. The Meredith, dependent on their sense of up and down, became disoriented and sick, but the humans didn't miss a beat. On the security feeds, the council members watched as Jack's team seamlessly transitioned to zero-G combat. They pushed off walls, rotated in midair, and used the environment to their advantage. What had been corridors and rooms became three-dimensional battlefields that the humans navigated with surprising skill. How are they doing that? The Misrith representative asked, her voice filled with wonder. Zero-G training is standard for all Earth diplomatic security, Diane said, as if this were perfectly normal. She didn't mention that humans had been practicing movement and weightlessness since before they left their planet, first in training facilities and later as entertainment. The station's temperature dropped rapidly as life support systems struggled. Frost formed on metal surfaces. Most species began to slow down, their biology not adapted for cold. The Zulathi, especially, moved more sluggishly as the temperature fell. But the humans kept going. Ambassador, the council head said, teeth chattering, your people should conserve energy. None of us can function effectively in these conditions. Diane smiled slightly as she watched Jack's team continue to work. Humans evolved on a planet with extreme temperature variations. This is uncomfortable but not debilitating for us. What she didn't say was that humans were persistence predators by nature. Long after other species had given up due to cold, hunger, or exhaustion, humans could continue pushing forward. It was written in their DNA, a legacy from ancestors who had chased prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. On the feeds, they watched Daniel's team secure the life support center. With precise coordination, they sealed the doors and restored partial power to critical systems. We have control of life support, Daniel reported, working on restoring gravity to evacuation zones. Good, Diane replied. Jack, status? We've contained breaches in sections 3 through 7. Jack's voice came through, calm despite the sounds of combat in the background. The Zulathi are regrouping. They didn't expect resistance. Diane turned to the council members. The evacuation shuttles are ready. My team has secured a path to the main bay. We need to move now. As they made their way through the damaged station, guided by Lisa's clear directions, the alien representative saw firsthand what humans were capable of. The diplomatic mask had fallen away, revealing something much more primal and effective. They weren't just survivors. They were hunters. And, for the first time, the galaxy was beginning to understand what that truly meant. 3 days after the Zulathi attack, the Conclave station was quiet again. Emergency repairs had restored basic functions. The dead had been honored according to their various customs. The wounded were healing. Diane Miller stood at the observation window outside the main chamber, watching the activity inside. The remaining Conclave representatives were voting on a resolution regarding the recent events. Their view of Earth and humans had changed completely. Jack Warren joined her at the window. His uniform was clean and pressed, showing no sign of the battles he had fought. Only a small bandage on his hand hinted at the past day's events. The vote is nearly unanimous, he said quietly. Earth will be granted a permanent seat on the Security Council. Diane nodded. And the Dravaki? Sanctions imposed. Their expansion plans blocked. Commander Vorth has been recalled to their homeworld in disgrace. Jack smiled slightly. Apparently, being defeated by soft garden worlders is a serious embarrassment. And the Zulathi? Their hive ship was driven back when 3 Zentari cruisers joined the Nightshade. The containment zone is being reinforced. Jack paused. Captain Russell sends his regards. The Nightshade will remain on patrol in the sector for another month. Diane watched as various alien representatives spoke with each other inside the chamber. Many glanced in her direction with expressions she hadn't seen before: respect, curiosity, and in some cases, wariness. "They see us differently now," she said. "They should," Jack replied. "We saved many lives." "That's not the only reason." Diane turned to face him. "They saw what we really are. Not just diplomats, not just another species trying to find its place. They saw predators." Lisa Chen approached, datapad in hand. "Ambassador, the council head has requested your presence for the final vote." "Thank you, Lisa." Diane smoothed her uniform. "Is everything prepared for the reception afterward?" "Yes, Ambassador. Though I should warn you, we've received 16 requests for private meetings with representatives who previously wouldn't even acknowledge us." "Amazing what a crisis reveals," Diane said with a small smile. Inside the chamber, Diane took her seat at the Earth delegation's table. Susan Phillips and Daniel Hayes sat to her left. They all showed the calm, composed faces of diplomats, though each had fought fiercely during the attack. The council head, still showing signs of injury from the battle, called the session to order. "Before we proceed to the final vote, Admiral, Jokar of the Ardani has requested to speak." Diane raised an eyebrow slightly. The Ardani were an ancient species, one of the founding members of the Conclave. They rarely involved themselves in the affairs of newer species. Admiral Jokar rose from his seat. His blue skin was marked with luminescent patterns that indicated his high rank. 4 eyes, arranged in a diamond pattern, surveyed the room. "Honored representatives," he began. "Recent events have forced us to reconsider many assumptions. Most critically, our understanding of our newest members, the humans of Earth." The chamber fell silent. The Admiral activated a projection in the center of the room. It showed footage from the battle, humans moving through zero gravity with practiced ease, fighting in darkness that blinded other species, continuing to function in cold that slowed everyone else. "My analysts have compiled data on human capabilities, demonstrated during the crisis," Jokar continued. "They can function without food for days, without water for hours, and without sleep for periods that would kill most species. They adapt to environmental changes that would incapacitate the rest of us." He changed the display to show Earth's history: ancient cave paintings of hunters with spears, medieval battles, and modern combat training. Most notably, humans are the only known species in the Conclave to have evolved as persistence predators. Creatures who hunt not by overwhelming strength or speed, but by relentlessly pursuing prey until it collapses from exhaustion. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Many species shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "For thousands of years," the Admiral continued, "humans fought wars against each other, perfecting the art of combat against opponents who thought exactly as they did. When they weren't fighting, they were training for it, studying it, preparing for it." Diane maintained her diplomatic smile, though she noted how many representatives were now looking at the human delegation with new understanding. Admiral Jokar turned to face her directly. "Ambassador Miller, I have a question that many here wish to ask. Why did Earth hide its true nature from the Conclave? Why present yourselves as mere diplomats when you are clearly warriors?" The chamber fell silent, all eyes on Diane as she rose to speak. "Admiral, honored representatives," she began, "Earth did not deceive you. We are diplomats. We seek peaceful solutions and mutual prosperity through cooperation. This has always been our primary goal." She paused, looking around the room. "But you are correct that we are also something else. Humans evolved on a world of predators and prey, of constant change and challenge. We survived not just through intelligence, but through persistence and adaptability." Diane walked to the center of the chamber, standing beside the holographic images of Earth's history. "We didn't hide our nature. The truth was always there in our open records. But many species see only what they expect to see. You expected weak newcomers, so that's what you saw." She gestured to the images of human history. "Every human diplomat in this room understands violence intimately. That's precisely why we work so diligently for peace. We know the cost of war better than most." The council head leaned forward. "Are you saying that all human diplomats are also warriors?" I'm saying that humanity never separated the two as clearly as some species have, Diane replied. Our greatest warriors study diplomacy. Our finest diplomats understand strategy. We hunt for solutions with the same persistence our ancestors used to hunt for food. She turned to Admiral Jokar. You ask why we didn't announce ourselves as predators? Because predators who announce themselves catch no prey. But more importantly, because we came here honestly seeking friendship, not conquest. The Admiral's 4 eyes blinked in the Ardani expression of acknowledgement. A candid answer, Ambassador. I believe we begin to understand humans better now. The Council head called for the vote. As expected, it passed unanimously. Earth would take its place on the Security Council, with all the responsibilities and privileges that entailed. After the session ended, Diane found herself surrounded by representatives eager to speak with her. Some offered thanks for the lives saved during the attack. Others proposed new trade agreements or cultural exchanges. A few simply wanted to study her, as if seeing a human for the first time. Admiral Jokar approached last. Ambassador Miller, the Ardani request the honor of a full military and diplomatic exchange program with Earth. We would be delighted. Admiral, Diane replied. One question remains, the Admiral said quietly. Now that the galaxy knows what humans truly are, what happens next? Diane smiled, the expression both diplomatic and somehow primal. We continue as we began, seeking peace, preparing for war, and hoping the former makes the latter unnecessary. The only difference is that now, perhaps, there will be fewer misunderstandings. As the reception continued around her, Diane's communication device vibrated with a message from Earth Command. Another potential crisis was developing in a distant sector. Another opportunity for diplomacy, backed by the unspoken but now recognized threat of what humans could do if pushed too far. She read the message, and then looked around at the gathered representatives of hundreds of worlds. They now knew that, behind every human diplomat's smile were the instincts and abilities of an apex predator. They now understood that humans pursued peace with the same relentless determination that their ancestors had pursued prey. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Humans were not just another species finding their place among the stars. They were predators who had chosen to be diplomats, not because they had to, but because they had seen where the path of pure predation led, and that perhaps made them the most dangerous species of all.